Okay, so Stars of Akarios, also known as Gloomhaven in space. I guess a lot of people have issues getting everything put away in the box without any lift, but it's really not that bad. If I can slowly get it open. There we go. You can mostly do what it says in here. A couple problems though in the scenario book. All right, the front cover on there pretends to tell you how to put everything away. No. For example, it leaves out one very important thing, what to do with the planet tiles. But we can mostly do what it says. We can put the sparrow away in here. And 3 hex tiles. Half of them in each of those, and then the 1 hex tiles right next to there. Okay, and then you might want to think, oh, well, let me just put these on here. Don't do that. And you can tell it's not intended because the little indentation here is definitely meant for the spiral on the scenario book, which these tiles stick up just a little bit above the bottom of there. Now, in the scenario book, it tells you to put all of the standees for the enemy ships and the bases for them in there. Yeah, right. I don't know. I couldn't get them to fit nicely. I don't really care, though, because, I mean, I do have the miniatures, which, if you have the miniatures, you don't need the standees and the bases for them. Well, you could just, I have them bagged over here. You could just set them in here if you just wanted them somewhere. And then, well, then they're out of the way. Or just pack them up somewhere else if you have the miniatures. Now, I keep a bag of sleeves for any of the decks that need to be shuffled a bunch. I keep a pair of sleeves in there for when I need to add more sleeves. Sorry about that. Because unfortunately, well, there's really no way to sleeve everything in the card holder. But if you're just sleeving the stuff that gets shuffled a lot, then it works out okay, and there's enough space for those. Now, pilots go in here, and only put 4 in there, even if you're not running with 4 players or 4 pilots. Do at least put a pilot and a ship in each of the little player trays. And then remaining ships, so there's 6 more of those on there. And yeah, I have the standees in there already. These I'll put in a minute. Enemy boards sit on top of all the tarot cards. All 9 pads go on top of the sparrow. Okay. Scenario book goes on next with the spine going into that little groove. And then rule book, map, and game board. Okay, and then at that point, then I go ahead and put these bases in here. Because now they can, come on, now they can squeeze down in there and be out of the way without disrupting putting everything else away. All right, so these, just put them on here. 2 on the top of the enemy boards, 2 on top of the pads. Because once you put the sparrow over here, the sparrow tray, it's shorter than all of the player trays. So even though this is a little higher now, it'll be at just about the exact same height as all the player trays once we put that in there. Sparrow tray, now I have all the enemy modifiers and trauma deck sleeved. They're sitting in there, and there is actually space in here to hold sleeves. What am I missing? Yeah, a few sheets sitting on there too. Sparrow board or sparrow trays in there nicely. It doesn't. There's still even space for a few more cards in there if necessary. For player, so a pilot, a ship, There are minis in here, a bunch of cubes in there. And there's plenty of room for the dice, any tech cards and ship abilities. Those don't need to be sleeved because then they wouldn't fit in the on the player board anyway. And you're not going to shuffle those. And then I have 24 modifier cards. The base deck for the modifier deck is 20 cards. I have a few more there just to see how well they would fit. A couple engine and weapon cards as well. And with all that, and then the pilot and ship. So with all that, it fits on there just fine. And I'm sure I could squeeze a few more modifier cards in there, but already 24. And yeah, put that in, and it's basically same height as the sparrow. Put all 4 of those in there. Card tray on top of that. And then finally, player boards on top of that. Although, for no reason at all, I turn those over, which I find it silly. This plastic should stick up just a little more on the card tray, because then the top one wouldn't slide around. It's perfect size for 3, or it's perfect height for 3. I don't know why it isn't just a little higher. And once you have all that in there, this is basically right level with the top of the box. So then we can slap on the lid, and hopefully it doesn't fart this time. And no box lift. So that's on there just perfectly. No box lift. All right. So that's the way to put that game away.